Did you know that a poorly designed charity donation page can cause potential donors to abandon it over 50% of the time? So a while ago, I teamed up with online donations experts from Zeffy to talk more about how can you create a donation page that converts, aka inspires your donors to follow through with giving that donation so that donors can give more to your cause instead of abandon your page. But if you couldn't join us for that webinar, and it was awesome to see so many of you there, we're gonna show the replay here in this video, so hang tight. And hey, if you are watching this video and you are totally new to this channel, hi, I'm Amber Melanie Smith. That sounded weird, I'm sorry. I'm Amber Melanie Smith, and I'm a nonprofit founder and social entrepreneur. I make these videos here to provide education and tools and resources to help you in your change-making efforts. Everything about starting and leading a successful nonprofit or social enterprise, fundraising, and more. Don't forget to check out my website, changemakercafe.com, where I have a lot of these educational videos organized for you so you can find what you're looking for, as well as some other resources and opportunities to connect, like my weekly newsletter, Changemaker Mondays. Definitely don't want to miss that. You can subscribe at the link below. All right, let's hop over to that webinar replay. Enjoy. Hello, welcome everyone. Come on in. We're going to give folks a chance to get in the room with us. All right. While we're waiting for everyone to join us, I'd love to get a chance to know who we have on this webinar with us. So why don't you go ahead and drop in the chat a little bit more about yourselves. I want to hear about where you're tuning in from, the organization that you're representing, your mission, and of course, your name. Hi, Calvin. Angela from Kinston. Wow, here we go. All right, Trisha from California. Lori, welcome. Susan from Seattle. Therese, I think we spoke earlier. Hi. Jean from Rotary Club of Estes Valley Sunrise. Amazing. Angelita, welcome. Pike School of Art. Lori from Raleigh. Hey, hey. Mike from Christchurch Children's Center in Fleetwood, Pennsylvania. Wow, look at all these messages. Wow, we have 260 folks in here so far, and the number keeps growing. Terry from ESC of the Triangle. Hey, friend, you're in my area of the woods. Laura from Georgia. Andrew from Mozambique. Wow. All right. Kristen, Noah's Animal House, Las Vegas. We've got folks from all over the place. This is amazing. Melissa from Minnesota, love the M's there. Jesse, One Lucky Dog Rescue. Dave. All right. Terry from Lake Worth, Florida, welcome. Keep it coming, keep it coming. Folks, if you are just entering the room, we are introducing ourselves. So drop a little bit more about yourselves in the chat, where you're tuning in from, and a little bit about your organization. We're just going to give people one more minute to join in before we get started here. Wow. All right. Emily from Puerto Rico, amazing. Kim from Stevenson, Washington. Quebec. Sarah Jones from Washington State. Bravery Basket, love that name. Richmond Delta Youth Orchestra, amazing. Seroptimus International, I'm familiar with that. Amy, welcome. Michael from Friends of Council on Aging. All right. Okay, we'll keep these introductions coming. We're going to go ahead and get started so that we can get in all this great content we have for you today and introduce ourselves as well. So keep those introductions coming, but a little bit about us. I'm Amber Melanie Smith. I think we have a lot of people here with us today whom I haven't had the honor of meeting yet. But I'm a nonprofit founder, social entrepreneur, and social impact YouTuber. I'd love to give Tanya a chance to introduce herself as well.
Hi,
Uh,
everybody. My name is Tanya. I'm a customer success manager here at Zeffy. And so for those of you who may not be familiar with Zeffy, I did see a few names that I recognized, but Zeffy is the only 100% free fundraising platform available in North America. And so my role here is to help our users with using the platform and launching their campaigns. So I'm super, super excited to be here today, chatting with all of you about donation forms and answering all of your questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Tanya. And not shown here on the slide, but here with us, we also have Hubert from the Zeffy team, who is going to help us answer some of your questions. So keep thinking of what those questions might be. We'll have plenty of opportunities throughout this webinar to answer those questions. All right, like I said, I think this might be my first time meeting several of you. So if you are just looking for some additional free content on all things nonprofit, I have over 270 videos now on my YouTube channel, all about nonprofit fundraising, board recruitment and governance, starting up a nonprofit, all of that good stuff. I hope these are valuable tools to you. My mission really is to help equip change makers to do this great work. And yeah, check out my channel and hopefully we can connect there. Brianna, just seeing your questions chat. Yes, this is being recorded. So we'll be able to share this recording link with folks afterwards. Look for that in your inbox. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. All right, let's get into our content here today. A little bit about what you can expect from this. I'm going to give you a quick overview and some housekeeping rules, like how to use the Q&A function, etc. This is a webinar, so we're going to be relying primarily on that Q&A function for questions. I'm going to do a poll to kind of get a sense of where your top challenges are in your online giving work. We'll have Tanya here talk about the traits of high converting donation pages and how to create a great donor user experience. And then, of course, we'll get to all of your questions. All right. Wow. We are at 325 participants. Keep those intros coming. Love seeing people from all over the place joining in. Thank you so, so much. Okay. Real quick housekeeping. If you haven't used the Q&A feature before on a webinar, here's how you do it. You should each have a little button at the bottom of your Zoom screen that says Q&A. So you can click that and you'll be able to drop your question in there to myself and our Zeffy friends here, and we're going to get to as many of them as possible. We have a lot of people on this webinar, so I'm not 100% sure we'll be able to get to every question, but we're going to do our very best. So that's how you'll use that, and you can drop a question in there throughout this entire time, anytime you think of one, but we will have a portion of answering these questions towards the end of the webinar. All right, let's get into this. All right, Tanya, you ready to talk about some current trends in online giving?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let's get into it. Take it away.
All righty. So yeah, just to give you guys kind of an idea of the importance of investing in the donation pages that you create, spending some time on them to make sure that when people land on your page, they know what they're there for, because online fundraising is really, really growing. So in just the last 3 years, we've actually seen an increase of about 50% in the online donation volume that's being received. So obviously, naturally after COVID, doing things online really, really took off, and the world of fundraising was not exempt from that. And actually now we see that around 65% of donors prefer to give online. So that's a very large majority of donors out there. So we can go to the next slide. And in addition to online fundraising growing in popularity, the cost of online fundraising has also increased. Well, just because of transaction fees and the cost of processing online payments. So that's sort of where Zeffy comes in, because just last year, $3 billion were spent on transaction fees alone by nonprofits. And so that's a lot of money. That is around enough money to feed 1.4 million children for a year. That is a huge, huge impact. That is a lot of resources that could be going towards funding super important, impactful missions. And that is what motivates Zeffy to stay free and be free, and not only offer quality fundraising technology to nonprofits, but also cover those processing fees on your behalf, in order to give that $3 billion back to the nonprofits that are working very hard to fundraise for it.
And I wanted to come in here and talk a little bit about another trend that we're seeing in fundraising in general, but especially online giving, and that is this idea of retaining your current donors, right? So if you can build trust with a donor and secure a donor, it's actually going to cost you less to retain that donor, maintain that relationship, than it costs to acquire a new donor. In fact, it costs roughly 5 times more in your time and money to acquire new donors than it costs to retain your existing donors. So this is a really important trend in my observation and experience. Not enough nonprofits are really focusing on this, but this is where a lot of great fundraising can occur with those donors with whom you've already built some trust. Another thing that I wanted to point out is this idea of peer-to-peer fundraising and recurring gifts. So peer-to-peer fundraising is on the rise. If you're not familiar with what that is, it's when you empower your existing supporters to go out there and raise money on your nonprofit's behalf. So it's a friend asking a friend for money instead of you, who might be a leader with your organization, asking a stranger to donate money. And the reason for this is simple donor psychology. People are way more likely to donate when they know and trust the person asking them to give, because giving your money requires a certain amount of trust and having a relationship in order to occur in the first place. So something to think about: if you haven't implemented a peer-to-peer campaign before, you might want to consider doing that. And there are so many helpful guides and strategies out there, to include some resources on my YouTube channel as well. Recurring giving is also really important. I love recurring giving. It's the best. Instead of someone making a one-time donation, recurring giving is like they have a subscription to your nonprofit. They're donating maybe every month or every quarter, but they've made a commitment, and the donation platform has facilitated a way to automate that recurring gift month after month. And the great thing about these types of gifts is that you're actually more likely to retain these types of donors for longer than your one-time donors. Some of the research I saw said that you're going to retain a recurring giver 5 to 7 years compared to 1 or 2 years for a one-time giver. So if you don't already have a monthly giving or a recurring giving strategy for your organization, this is another really important thing you can tap into that is very it's being discussed a lot in the nonprofit circles right now. Back to you, Tanya. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry. Um, so yeah, just to quickly tap into donation page conversion rates. So when somebody lands on your page, what gets them from point A to point B? They're a visitor. How do you get them to donate? So just to sort of give you guys an idea of what the average stats around that are is, well, first of all, a conversion rate is when a donor visits your page, and that is how likely they are to actually finish and make a donation. So the average rate for that is around 17%. So 17% of people who land on a donation page, web page, or form are likely to give a donation at the end. This is obviously something that is super, super important. And when designing a form, it's important to keep that in mind. So when we design forms at Zeffy, we have taken that into consideration, and we've been able to boost that conversion rate up to 25% on our forms. And also keeping in mind that a lot of website visitors are actually on mobile now. So making sure that when you do create that donation page, that it's mobile friendly. I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But around 58% of people who visit websites are on mobile devices. So keeping that in mind when you create your pages, very, very important as well.
All right, just echoing how important that is. I know that if I'm going to go donate on a page on my phone and I can't see the fields, it's super frustrating. So just imagine what a donor might be feeling if they experience that. So it's critical to test your donation pages on your phone too. Awesome. Okay, so here's where I want to get sort of a better sense of where everyone is at in their online giving challenges. So I'm going to launch a poll here, and you should see it pop up in just a second. And I'd love for you to weigh in and let us know what your top challenges are. So just give me 1 second here. All right, the poll is now open. What are your top online giving challenges? The numbers are dancing all over the place. I'm seeing a lot of folks talking about attracting new donors, how to get people to actually donate when visiting, what to include on our donation page is coming in third. Keep those answers coming in. We've got, wow, 250 of you have answered so far. That's amazing. Thank you. Keep it coming. I'll give you just one more minute to answer this. All right, I'm going to end this poll in 3, 2, 1. I think I just enabled it to show you the results, but here is where we are at. We have nearly half of you, 48%, saying that your top online giving challenge is simply how to attract new donors, period. Then we have second after that, how to get people to actually donate when visiting. So that conversion from coming to your page and then actually making the donation. And then what to include on your donation page is third. And then finally, how to retain donors, which looking at these stats makes sense. You've got to attract new donors and then you can retain them. Very interesting. And I have to say, not terribly surprising. What do you think, Tanya?
Yeah, no, I definitely think like in the conversations that I have, especially with new nonprofits as well, like attracting new donors and getting people to donate. I mean, we see that conversion rate as well that I was just talking about, like 17%. I mean, it's a good stat, but it's still quite below half of the people. So yeah, getting people from that visit to the intention to the actual contribution is definitely a challenge that I can see being big.
So if you said this was your top challenge, just know that you're not alone here. So let's talk a little bit about this stuff. And real quick, just a reminder, I see several of you already taking advantage of this feature, but just as a reminder, as you're thinking of questions, please drop those in the Q&A, and we're going to do our best to get to as many of those as possible. I know Hubert's in there answering some as well. Okay, so as people were registering, you might remember this when you registered for this webinar, you had an opportunity to weigh in on some of your top challenges. And these are some of the common comments that I saw throughout that. So some of these you just saw on the poll there. How do you get donors to go from arriving on the page to actually donating? How to attract donors to your page in the first place? What do you put on the page? What types of images? I thought that was a really interesting question. Retaining donors once they do donate. And I think a lot of you might be in that early stage of nonprofit development. So this is a great question too. How do you build or grow an audience when you're just starting out? And I actually wanted to take a minute because I saw so many people asking about if you're starting from scratch, if you are a newer organization, where do you even begin with attracting donors? How do you even get donors in the first place? So, as I was kind of alluding to before, donors give when they have trust, when they understand your impacts, and when you've started to establish some kind of relationship with them. In my experience, running an organization, also advising lots of other nonprofits on topics related to fundraising and other things, in my experience, it's very rare that people will donate in response to a cold email or in response to an ask from a complete stranger. So building that friendship and that relationship is your first step. In order to do that, you have to first build your audience. So you need to be out there in the community doing public speaking. You need to be networking at events, tabling at other community events, and collecting contact information while you're doing this. People who are interested in learning more about what your work is all about they will gladly provide their email address so that they can learn more. So you really want to be focused on getting out there, raising awareness about who you are and what you do before you think about asking for any money at all. Once you start to build this email list, you're going to have a base of people who might become potential future donors. And you want to take some time, a couple months at least, to start establishing trust with those people. You can do this through regular communication. I'm talking about sending out newsletter updates, sharing your impacts, sharing some behind the scenes stories of the people that you're serving. All of this helps your potential donors understand who you are and why you need their money. So, as you're building a relationship, you might also consider deepening that relationship by inviting them to do other things that don't involve asking for money yet. Things like come do a behind the scenes tour of our facility, things like come volunteer for our cause or join an event. I've heard people express concern in the past that if someone's already volunteering, why would they also give their money? But actually, the research shows that when you volunteer, you're more likely to donate to a cause. And the reason for that is basically what I'm saying. When you volunteer, you're seeing behind the scenes of an organization, you're building trust with its leadership. So that's why you're more likely to become a donor if you're also a volunteer for that organization. So your own volunteers are a potential wonderful source of donations as well. So once you've established this trust and you've built up your audience, then you can make the ask. Just like with any kind of business, or it's you can think of it like sales, right? You're not going to get every single person on your email list to donate. Probably you might, but it's probably going to be something like 5 to 10%, right? So if you have an email list of 1,000 people, maybe you can get 100 of them to donate. So that's why it's important to keep growing your email list as well while you're developing these relationships. So for those of you who are just starting out and you're in that early stage, I hope that this sort of helps give you a little bit of a playbook or a roadmap for how you would begin uh, attracting new donors in the first place. All right. Thank you for that tangent. All right, Tanya, let's get into some of these traits of top performing donation pages.
Yeah, no, and I just want to say everything that you said, it's so awesome and it's so important to keep in mind. And especially well, it brings me to my point now about sharing your impact and how to build donation pages that perform, that convert, that when people arrive on the page, they know what they're there for, but they also get to know you. So if you're concerned about like how do people know what I'm up to when they land on my page, or how am I seen, or how do I get new donors? One of the biggest ways that you can do that is by sharing your impact. And this is an example of a page that I really love and that really performs. Yeah, so this is the Kids Cancer Care of Alberta. They've been a user of ours for over 3 years now, and they do so much. But when you land on their page, you see their impact that is tailored in a very short and concise way, and you can immediately see the top things in red are what they are actually offering, and then they offer more details later. So I think what can really happen on pages sometimes is because they're being designed by people who are so involved in the mission and who know exactly what's going on, you feel the need to share so much, but also figuring out like, okay, what's my most impactful stat here and what can I state that's really going to not shock, but really get people thinking like, oh my gosh, that is a big number, or that really has a large impact. So I think when you're thinking of sharing your impact on your website, which is huge and should be one of the first things that people see, you also want to be thinking like, okay, out of all of the amazing things that my nonprofit is able to do, what are maybe the top 3, just so that it's not like information overload, that people will feel that they're familiar with what I'm doing right now, and they're going to know at the end of the day that that they're donating to an organization that's having an impact, that's acting in their community. Yeah, and then also another important thing for helping people get from point A to point B is offering various ways to give. So these are some examples of websites where you can see a common theme is that there's multiple donate buttons. They have multiple programs offered. So there's people who want to donate. Maybe they want to become a monthly donor. Maybe they want to just donate one time. So offering also different programs that they can donate to and seeing what that impact will lead to. So like we can see in one example, we have a sustaining membership that is considered to be a donation, and that sounds more like a commitment with somebody who might already be familiar. And then there's also the opportunity to just make a simple donation to the center, and that might be more appealing to some people who are landing on the page for the first time, for instance. So when you're creating your donation form, there's sort of like 4 essential elements that you want to be keeping in mind. It's consistency, accessibility, user friendliness, and payment methods. So consistency, first of all, in your nonprofit branding. So you want people to remember, especially when they're giving online, there's a lot of stimulus. There's a lot of things going on. They might be getting texted at the same time, like they're on their phones, on their devices. There's a lot happening. So you want to be staying consistent with your message, with your branding, with your colors, and keeping your descriptions really short. So that way people know, what they're there for, and they're remembering exactly like whose page they're on when they get there. And also if they're seeing you other places, then that they'll be able to make that link and recognize your organization. And then also accessibility wise, so we were talking about how a lot of people are visiting websites now on mobile. So making sure that there isn't too much movement on the website, even going through like a web page on desktop, you don't really want people having to make multiple clicks to actually get to your donation form. So having a donate button that somebody can just click, okay, yes, I saw this message, I saw their impact, and I want to support this. Boom, I can donate and I'm brought straight to the form. So having your donation form available at the top right there is super, super important. And again, that kind of falls in line with user friendliness. So accessibility is bringing people to the form, but then also once they're on the form interacting with it, how much information are they being asked to provide? If maybe you're trying to collect more information from your donors and asking them questions, try and minimize that just to make sure that, you're really getting to the heart of what people are there for, and they're not getting bogged down being asked a million questions and clicking around on the form too much. And then finally, offering various payment methods. So making sure that people have access to their preferred payment method when they go to make a donation. Really popular now because so many people are on mobile is having access to Apple Pay and Google Pay. So that really minimizes also like the amount of information they need. They don't have to go grab their card, makes it super, super simple for them. So that's also important to keep in mind when you're choosing your platform and when creating your donation form.
And if I could just add one quick comment about accessibility there, I have found also that you want to be really thoughtful about your font size and color.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen pages where the font color was very light and it was kind of hard to read, or the font was very small. So just little tiny details like that. If someone can't read, if someone can't understand what's on your page, that's definitely going to reduce their likelihood of donating.
Yeah, that is such a great point. And really, like, that's why, like, thinking back to that page where Kids Cancer Care was showing their impact, like, they have one font in red that shows like the simple message, and then other in like smaller font. So really making sure that things are clearly communicated and also not like an overwhelming amount of information. That's such a great point. Thanks for jumping in and saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then finally for your donation form, a couple of winning practices and things that you can add to the form. So one thing, and Amber was talking about this before, about just letting your supporters know that they can support you by donating, but also by sharing that they are a supporter of your community. So not only does that allow you to like broaden your outreach and expand the number of people who are seeing your forms, but really allowing people to share your forms and giving them quick, easy links to be able to, post on Facebook and say, I just donated to this organization. They're hosting a big fundraiser, and it would really mean a lot to me if anybody who wants to support would take a minute and check out their donation page. So giving people access to easy sharing links to put out there is also another great way that people can support you. Also on donation forms is you can add a sense of urgency, but also a sense of community by adding a progress bar to your donation form. So when people arrive on your form and they see like, oh, okay, this is where they're at in terms of their fundraising goal, it can really encourage them to make that donation. And also if there's a public list of donors where they can see sort of what the average donation amount is and how much people are giving, it can also not only sway them to make a decision and on how much to donate, but also just feeling like they're actually a part of something, because a big part of being online is you can sometimes feel a bit alone or you don't totally see what's going on. It's not like being at an event where you're seeing everybody around. So having that kind of community aspect with a progress bar is really, really a nice touch. And then finally, allowing for tribute donations. So tribute donations are donations made in honor or in memory of someone. So allowing somebody to make a donation on your form and saying, and I want to make this donation in memory of X person, and then also having the ability to share that with them or with their family and friends is also really lovely. So this is about 33% of online donations that we see that are tribute donations. And those can also help with that sort of like community aspect when it comes to donating.
I was actually really fascinated when I saw this. 33% are tribute donations. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
it's pretty large.
I just want to add one thought to sharing your forms. Another tip to sort of tack on to what Tanya was saying is if you can also provide a quick sentence or one or two sentences about the mission and about what you're fundraising for, supply that to your donors. Because one thing that I've heard is that donors don't want to have to think of the right language to explain your
Mm.
cause to their friends. So if you can equip them by giving them like a talking point, that will make it all the more likely that they will then share your fundraiser on their social pages as well.
That's such a great point. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Now, when you all registered, you had an opportunity to provide your website link to participate in this live donation audit. Now, we were only able to pick out a couple because of the time we have today, but we did go ahead and pick out a couple that we're going to talk through as examples of some things that we think will be great to include on online donation pages, as well as some things that we see going really well. So Hubert, I don't know if you can drop those links into the chat. If anyone wants to follow along on these pages as we are doing this, we are going to, I'm going to see if I can stop sharing this. I'm going to bring up these pages for you here. Okay, hang tight just one second. All right. So we're going to be looking at the organizations that Hubert is sharing in the chat, and that is the Friends in the Garden Project, Dallas Art Therapy, and the Roots Music Project. So if you are able to see those links in the chat provided by Hubert and follow along, you're welcome to do that. Thank you all so much. We had so many wonderful people submit their pages. I'm sad that we can't get to them all, but I'm really excited to share the ones that we were able to pick out for you. Okay, so I'm going to jump first into Friends of the Garden. I'm going to share my screen one more time for you. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to have Tanya and myself and Hubert, if you have thoughts, you can jump in here too. We're just going to see, what we're observing here and what our thoughts are on this page. I love the colorful logo. I can say that.
Yeah, no, I really love the logo. I think it's so like friendly and warm as soon as you land on the page too. Definitely made me smile when I opened this one up.
Let's go directly to their donate page here.
Mm.
Okay.
Right, so maybe
So
I'll
go
jump
ahead.
in.
Yeah, please jump in.
Thank you for sharing the example, Amber. I think this is a good example of how customizable a form can be. So, making it match with your own brand identity and, I guess the colors and identity of your nonprofit. If there was one thing I think I would maybe try to change here or tweak a little bit, I would say maybe trying to reduce the amount of content on the form. It's obviously super important to share impact, and I think that's what was done here. But sometimes it can be a little too much and overwhelming for the donors. So maybe, focusing on maybe 2 or 3 key aspects of your mission would help clarify a lot, I believe.
Mhm.
I would agree with that. I think, you have a lot of, I don't know if you're in here right now, friends in the garden, but just for everyone, there's a lot of great details here about things that are happening in the moment, right? So we have a press release, we've got a grant that they're trying to complement with more donations. So that's some good in the moment stuff. But to sort of tack on to what Hubert was saying, I feel like for a donation page, this might be overwhelming. So these would be great details to include on your social media or perhaps in an impact newsletter to someone who's thinking about donating or has already donated.
Mm-hmm. And one other thing about this is that, well, it sort of relates back to what you were saying about peer-to-peer campaigns, because this is a peer-to-peer campaign, which I think is amazing. And it's, a specific fundraiser for their legal expenses. And that's very clearly communicated as soon as you land on the page, and we're involving lots of people. But so keeping in mind also that when people are resharing this page and joining your fundraiser, that this is also, the messaging that they're going to have. So sometimes also tailoring it to more of like a donor's perspective, or of somebody who's joining in on your fundraiser when hosting a peer-to-peer. That can also be super practical because people don't always customize the messaging on their end. So yeah, having something out there that you want people to also be saying about the fundraiser, because it's also coming from them.
Awesome. I do really like these really authentic pictures here. Also, that super adorable kid holding the sign with the kid handwriting is awesome. Very relatable. So good use of imagery here, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And then also having the hashtag directly in the title. I think sometimes naming your campaign the actual hashtag that you want people to be sharing around and using on social media. It's also a great way to grow community and make it very easily accessible.
Awesome. Okay. Any more thoughts, Hubert or Tanya, before we move on to Dallas Art Therapy?
No, let's move on.
All right, let's take a look at another one here.
Mm-hmm.
This is Dallas Art Therapy in North Texas. Dallas Art Therapy, I'm not sure if you're on here, but here's your page. All right, what do we think, team?
First thing that jumps out at me here is just the clear call to action, which is super important. It's you land on the page and it's give now, and that is makes it very simple for people to say, like, okay, well, I looked up Dallas Art Therapy today. I wanted to make a donation to them, and I arrive and I know exactly how to do that.
Absolutely. I think it's something we see quite a lot, actually, unfortunately, is websites where, you have to click maybe 3 times to actually find the donation page. Maybe sometimes you have to scroll down as well. So it doesn't seem like a big deal, firsthand, but actually the more clicks, the more scrolls, the less people will actually go until the end of the donation process. So I think it's a great thing what they did here.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with all that. One thing that really stood out to me here was they have a big, bold statement about their values here. I really appreciated that. A lot of people donate to their values. So having that really accessible there. Also showing your other partners and sponsors. What this does is kind of what Tanya was saying before, is when you see some of the other donors who are giving, it adds this element of what's called social proof. And if you're not familiar with that concept, it means you're more likely to give or participate when you see other people giving and participate, because it's kind of like a signal that that's the cool thing to do, or maybe not the cool, but the right thing to do, right? So I think that having some of your other supporters featured here is really smart. The only thing that I would look for as a donor specifically is I'd be really interested in seeing a little bit more upfront about the impact of the donation. And something I talk about a lot in videos is this idea of the gap. And the gap is the status quo of your organization, so what you're able to accomplish with the funding you have now, compared to what impact you could make with the funding that you would have if everyone donated, right? So what's in the middle is the gap. And your goal as a fundraiser is to get people to recognize that they can contribute money to fill the gap, to bridge you from one place to the next. So for example, maybe Dallas Art Therapy on their current annual budget can serve 500 people. But if they raised $100,000, they could serve 1,000 people. So that's an amazing impact that I would love to have as a donor, is knowing that with my contribution, they can double the number of people they serve. So thinking of what is your gap, what is your current situation, and what would your situation be if you had the funding you need, and articulating that in one clear, compelling sentence on your fundraising pages, I think goes a long way for donors.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
Any other thoughts on this one, Tanya or Hubert? All right, let's take a look at our third audit page here, Roots Music Project. What do you all think?
So I think here,
Again,
sorry, go on,
sorry.
Tanya. Go on, go
No,
on.
no, no. Please go ahead. I took over the
Oh,
first one time.
okay, I was just gonna say here, I think what's also very well done, pretty similar to what we saw just before, is that we have the donate option here right away. So we don't see the whole donation form there, but it's quite visible, you know, firsthand. You know it's here, so just a little scroll will let you make a donation. I think this is great. Right now we are on their donate page already, but if you go from the home page, I think the donate button on the navigation bar at the top kind of blends with the rest. So I think highlighting your donation page depends also on the reality of your nonprofit and how much you rely on donations. But I think a good practice would be to make this donation button maybe a little more visible. Sometimes putting it in the right corner of the navigation bar with maybe like a little different color or something like that would make it stand out even more. But the page itself, I think it's from what I see here, it's pretty clear where the donations will happen.
Yeah, I really loved the visuals on this page. I thought they were very impactful. I really loved their why statement. So, you know, music as a powerful force for good. So here's, you know, basically what they're all about and why this is important and why it should matter to you, right? So music builds confidence. It's for better health. It brings us together. So these are all of the additional improvements that are being made when you donate to this organization. So I really liked that. I also liked that they had some really interesting stats here about who they're serving. So youth performers, people with disabilities, people of color, et cetera, and their reach, right? So they have a lot of some good, bold impact statements right here on the page. I really appreciated that. I think the only thing that I would suggest is if there's any way to have one kind of impact statement or even like a quick testimonial from someone they served a little bit higher up on the page, closer to the donation box, I think that could be really helpful because you want people to attach those things in their mind, right? The impact with the donation form should be close together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
I think something we obviously right now we're showing examples of websites on desktops because that's how the webinar is set. But I think one key thing to keep in mind, and I think Amber, Tanya, you mentioned it at the beginning, is really to make sure all your web pages are mobile friendly, which means that people could see and navigate the page super well on mobile as well as on desktops. So different ways to do that obviously would be to either just put a link to an external form on your donation button, for example, if you're not too familiar with embedding a form, so making it like part of your website. And if you feel like you don't have that many skills in website development, so just making sure that you're using a platform that allows people to donate as well on mobile as on desktop would be key as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great point. And the donate button is, well, we're obviously on the donate page here, but on the home page, it isn't really present. So as Hubert was saying, it really depends on like what percentage of donations actually is core to your fundraising and your operations. But I could imagine on mobile, like that navigation at the top isn't as accessible. I obviously don't know what the form looks like exactly on mobile, but having a donate button on the homepage would allow people who are accessing it on mobile to quickly find it, because they would most likely in this case have to go through a menu to find out that they could make a donation, not only attend events or purchase a ticket or something like that. So yeah, that's also something to keep in mind.
One thing I'll see a lot of web pages do is have just a big colorful square like link donate like off to the side, so it's not even part of their main navigation. It's like its own separate thing, and that I've heard can be very helpful as well.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing. We're going to get back to the presentation. We're going to get into Q&A shortly here. But like I said, thank you to everyone who submitted their webpage for an audit. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all of them, but I hope that that was useful to you in thinking through what you might do as you approach your own pages. All right. I'm going to share my screen one more time. Okay. So let's get a little bit into creating a great donor experience. And we're going to do this quickly because I want to make sure we have enough time to get to so many Q&A questions. And Hubert, thank you for your work getting in, answering some of those as we go as well. All right, Tanya.
Yeah, so yes, I will do this quickly because I want to get to the Q&A as well. But now that you've created this great donation page and you've got your impact statement shown and everything, sending that out. The important thing there is personalizing your emails. Emailing is a big tool that should definitely be used in addition to social media, but you want to be emailing your current supporters, re-engaging with people who've given to you in the past or who have even expressed an interest by subscribing to your newsletters. And some key elements to building these emails, to getting people to actually move to donating, is first of all, personalizing it, making sure that their name is explicitly stated, and then also using more language like your generosity and your contribution and your support, as opposed to having it being more of a general message, can really make a difference. We can move to the next slide. Thank you. And then again, sharing your impact. So if this is an email that you're sending out, maybe you've put a lot of work into, customizing your donation page to have an explicit impact statement, but getting people to click on that donate button, you're going to also need to share like even just a quick statement, not making the email too overwhelming, but even putting something in bold, like, we're going to be dedicating these donations solely to this specific fund or this specific mission. So that way people know, okay, I'm receiving an email to support this specific fundraiser, and this is what my donation will allow for within this organization that I want to support. And then finally, giving a main action. So having a donate style button within the email is also very appealing. It really lets people know exactly what they're being asked to do when they receive this email. And it's sort of the first thing that they see when they open it up. So yeah, having something like a donate button or having just a larger link or a hyperlink in an email, that can really make a difference. So that way they know exactly where to go, and maybe they won't read the whole email, but at least they'll get there. Yeah, and then lastly, just about like donor engagement on social media. Maybe I don't want to spend too much time on this, but just giving you guys some ideas of like being mindful of when and where you're posting. So keeping in mind what your demographic is, what types of social media are they using. Maybe you're wasting a lot of time putting something up on LinkedIn and on Facebook when most of your supporters are on Instagram or on other social medias. So just knowing where to sort of concentrate your efforts, and then also knowing when to post. And you can also just refer to this sort of list of helpful tools that we encourage people to use, like ChatGPT and Canva. Canva's free for nonprofits to use, as is ChatGPT. So yeah, just using that to like craft your social media posts, get you sort of started on like templates and things that you can customize further. But those are also helpful when thinking of creating your social media posts and sharing your forms. All
right, we have arrived. Thank you, Tanya, for that quick run through of creating a great experience. I almost feel like we could talk more about this for a whole nother hour, but obviously we're going to respect all of your time in this 1 hour webinar. Let's jump right into some of these Q&A questions. Don't forget to use the Q&A feature. We're going to do our best to get to several of these. Hubert, I do see several specifically about Zeffy. I'm going to allow you and Tanya to tackle those, but let's find a couple in here to tackle. And if you don't mind, Tanya, I'll start. I see a question from Cindy Ogden here. What is the best protocol for emails to your contacts? We don't want to spam people, but we also want to stay top of mind, frequency and content. Okay, so Cindy, in my experience, one great way to determine the answer to this is to ask your contacts, right? And to give them a choice to opt in to what kinds of communications they want to receive from you, to segment your email contact list. So one thing I did with my own organization was when people opted into our email list, they could check boxes to say what they wanted to hear about. If they wanted to hear about a specific program that we did, or just general updates or opportunities to volunteer. And then everyone would still receive our usual newsletter. We experimented with newsletters that were both monthly and weekly. Honestly, we didn't see too much difference in the open rates or click rates between monthly or weekly. So I don't think that we bothered too many people by doing weekly, but we did see more people signing up to do things like volunteer the more frequently we sent it out. And if someone is, looking for less frequency, just giving them options, I think can really help with that. So Cindy, I think it's just about getting feedback from those people and giving them options on what they want to hear about. Tanya, Hubert, do you see any that you want to hone in on?
Yeah, I did see one here about when creating a donation page, when listing suggested donation amounts. So typically when you're building a donation form, you can suggest the types of amounts that you sort of expect to receive. And this question was asking specifically, what do you list first? I think it makes the most sense to have the smallest listed first and then the largest listed last if you're going in a row. But people actually typically donate the middle options. So the amounts that you sort of expect to receive, we recommend finding that average and what you're also hoping to receive. So really figuring out what you're trying to actually fundraise and knowing how large your community is and the donors that you're trying to get through this campaign, sort of averaging that out. So that way, if you have 200 people donating $50, that's going to help you reach your goal. And you can suggest that as either the second or the third amount, because that's where people typically tend to go. But then they also know that they can donate a little bit less or a little bit more, depending on what their situation is and how much they want to provide support for the campaign.
That is super interesting. I didn't know that.
There's another question here I saw, I think from Diana, asking, when creating a donation campaign, should I list first the larger amounts or the smaller ones?
I think that's what Tanya was just answering. Is that right?
My apologies. Okay,
Oh, is that the same one you were addressing to the middle amount? Which, yeah, I think that was the same one. It's a good
I'm
question.
sorry, I was typing the answer, so that's all good. I'll look for other good questions.
No worries. Let's see. I did see a couple questions about individual state requirements, like the solicitation licenses. I don't know if either of you have thoughts on that.
Specifically pertaining to Zeffy, if there's things on our end that we can do to prevent that, making sure that people are only donating in specific states, or did you mean more generally about that?
I would think whichever way you can answer to provide some insight there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I only feel sort of comfortable addressing the Zeffy side of things. Currently on our donation forms, there's no explicit way to restrict donations. So you can really accept donations from anywhere in the world. But if there are specific requirements of people having to only be in certain states to donate to your organization, my recommendation in that case would be so you can customize all Zeffy forms to include custom questions. And we we include checkbox questions as the types of questions that you can have on your form. So making it like a required checkbox for people to acknowledge that they understand that they have to be located in a specific area to continue with their purchase doesn't absolutely 100% restrict people from making that contribution. They could lie, but we would hope that they wouldn't. But they would at least have to confirm that they've understood that that's a requirement to give to your organization.
And I will just add here, I am not a tax professional or accountant, but Cindy and others who've asked this question, you should probably talk to your accountant because it might depend on volume of donations you're receiving from certain locations. If one person, if my relative from California donates, I don't think, again, not a tax professional, it's probably not as big of a deal as if I'm getting 1,000 donations from California, but I'm over here in North Carolina and I only have a solicitation license in North Carolina. So my recommendation for anyone wondering about, do you have to have solicitation licenses in every single state if you have online giving activated on your website, is to talk to your tax professional to be sure.
Super great point.
I've seen another question popping a few times, specific to Zeffy. So it was about getting started with Zeffy and importing your current, donor database in the platform. Wondering if that was possible. It's completely doable, absolutely. So it's, by the way, completely free. So if you want to switch to Zeffy, but make sure that you don't lose all your contacts, all your historical data, you can definitely do that on Zeffy in a few minutes. We have an import option for that. So just thought I would address this question.
Yeah, also a quick one that I'm noticing a few coming in about Zeffy specifically as well, about like integration options with Zeffy, like integrating Zeffy with other platforms. That is absolutely possible. We have more information about that in our help center. So I highly encourage you guys to go and check out the help center that's available on our website. We do all of our integrations with other apps through Zapier, so that's possible. And then a lot of people are also asking about like integrating Zeffy forms onto their website. So yes, all of our forms, as soon as they're created, we equip you with all of the different sharing links that you need. So you would get an embed code that you could use to then just plug into that section of your website where you want to see it, or get the sharing link to create a donate button as well. We also have tutorials on how to do that on our help center. Just because I saw that kind of spread out, I'm not answering one person specifically, but I was just seeing a lot of people asking about that.
I'd like to jump in here and answer Teresa's question. Teresa asks, would you recommend reducing the overall financial goal of a project to give it more urgency? Here's my thought on that. No, just authentically ask for the amount you need and make sure that you're also accounting for the true costs of the project, everything that is required to run your project. Because you don't want to create a situation in which you are training donors or the general public to think that it costs you less to run your organization and your projects than it actually does. Because then when you do need larger amounts of funding, there is going to be some confusion about why. So I would say simply just be transparent about the true amount you need. It's not going to impact urgency. The thing that's going to impact urgency and success here is how well you're able to communicate the impacts. And secondly, what donors you are reaching through your messaging. So if you have a large donation campaign, you need to raise $1 million, then you need to make sure that you have channels to reach donors who could give larger amounts of money. And that is a topic probably for a whole other webinar. But I would say never reduce a goal with the hopes of giving it more urgency. Always just be transparent about exactly what you need and explain why you need that amount. So I hope that was helpful. I think we have time for maybe like one more, maybe two.
Yeah, I'm scrolling through here. Just
so many wonderful questions.
Yeah, there are so many great questions. I'm just trying to find the ones that are most relevant probably for everyone.
I don't know if you want to talk about this one from Mike here about data and analytics that Zeffy can provide.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's quite a bit of reporting that's available to you through the platform. So as soon as somebody makes a payment to your organization through a Zeffy form, it automatically, it's going to appear up in your dashboard. And also all of their contact information is immediately saved and a contact profile page is created for them. So you can export your contact lists at any time. We also offer pretty extensive filtering and segmenting capabilities. So you can really create contact lists and knowing who to reach out to and when. You can also, on our donation forms, you can also use UTM extensions. So sorry, that might be a little bit, I may have opened a can of worms there, but you can sort of track where your donations are coming from by just adding a little extension to your URLs. So we have also more about that on our support page. So that's kind of more on tracking side of things. And then, yeah, you get all the standard payment reports, payout reports. And if you're asking, custom questions on your forms, you're also able to just view all of those in one same report and filter out those reports in Excel. Hopefully that answers the question well.
Awesome.
There's another question I saw a few times as well about Zeffy and tax receipting. So if that's something you want to handle and automate in Zeffy, that will be the case. So typically you can choose to issue tax receipts or not when someone makes a donation to your nonprofit. So that way you don't have to handle that manually anymore. I know for a bunch of nonprofits it can be a spreadsheets work. So it's you won't have to spend any more time doing this. And same thing as well for thank you emails. So that's something that will be automated and sent along with the tax receipt. So I think that was Kim's question, but I saw that popping a few times also.
Awesome. Well, folks, we are at time. So I just want to have us wrap up with a final few comments here. Thank you so much for your questions. Just a quick plug, if anyone is in that sort of startup phase and you're looking for some more guidance or help, if you're already on my email list or part of my audience, you might have seen me talk about this, but I just opened up my Changemaker Accelerator membership program. So we're offering some group coaching and templates, et cetera, to help those organizations that are probably under 5 years and starting to grow and scale. That's a great resource for them. So if you're interested in learning more, changemakercafe.com is where you can learn more about that. And enrollment is only open till November 4th. So get on that if you want to join me. And then finally, just look in your inbox for the recording link for this webinar and some additional links and resources. So watch your inbox for that. I'm going to probably send it out within the next couple of hours here. But it's been a pleasure. Tanya, Hubert, any final comments for our guests here today?
All I'll say is if you're looking to get started or if you had a question about Zeffy that wasn't answered in today's webinar, you can head over to our website where you can find either the link to sign up to attend a demo, which I also host if you're not sick of listening to me. And you can also chat with us and submit questions through our chat link on the website. So we'll be super happy to hear from you guys and answer all of your questions.
Amazing. Thank you all so much. Like I said, watch your inbox and hopefully you'll join us for more stuff in the future. See you later. Bye,
everybody. Thanks
Bye,
so
everybody.
much.
All right, I'd love to hear what you thought, and let's flip the script for a moment. I want you to think about a time when you were looking at someone else's donation page. Maybe you were considering making a donation. What are some of the elements you saw that inspired you to want to give or that turned you away? Share your lessons learned in the comments below. As always, I hope you find this content inspiring and helpful and valuable in your own journey. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to this channel. It means so much to me to have your support so that we can reach more change makers and equip them with the tools they need to make an impact. And of course, don't forget to visit changemakercafe.com for all those additional resources that I was talking about, and subscribe to my newsletter, Changemaker Mondays, below. I hope to see you in the next video. I'm Amber Melanie Smith. Bye.